Today, we'll be crafting with Dollar Tree's peel and stick wallpapers. I've really been loving some of their newer designs and I can't wait to show you what we're making. Dollar Tree has added a few new designs to their peel and stick wallpaper section, and we'll be getting to those in just a bit. But first, I'll be using the wood frame from this canvas. Now, I did pick up one of the larger canvases from Dollar Tree, which I was originally going to use for this project, but I ended up using this 12 by 12 one that I already had. You can definitely use any size you like for this project. I'll also be using a pack of these paint stir sticks, which you can usually find at your local hardware store. I started arranging the paint sticks inside the frame to create a crisscross design. So I just played around with it, moving them around until I liked the way it looked. And I used about 6 paint sticks. Once I was happy with the way it looked, I marked where each stick needed to be trimmed. And to cut it out, I used my angle miter shears. I wanted to stain the wood, so I started with some burnt umber acrylic paint from Apple Barrel mixed with water to create a stain effect. But it came out a little deeper and darker than I wanted, so I added some khaki and territorial beige from Apple Barrel, and this color turned out perfect. I'm just brushing the stain onto the wood and then immediately wiping it down. And then I move on to the paint stir sticks. For the backing of the frame, I'll be using this beautiful green peel and stick wallpaper from Dollar Tree. Because there isn't a board on the back of the frame, I'll be using one of these chopping mats from Dollar Tree for the backing. These are always so handy to have around, especially for crafting projects. I'm just measuring the size that I need and trimming it down with my large paper cutter. Then I measured and trimmed the wallpaper. I peeled off the backing and adhered it right onto the chopping mat. I'm using some hot glue to hold the backing in place on the back of the wooden frame. Then I'm reinforcing it with my staple gun just to make sure it isn't going anywhere. That's looking really pretty already. Okay, so now I'm arranging the paint sticks inside the frame. I ended up changing the arrangement from what I originally had and made the center square a little larger. I wasn't really trying to make everything perfectly symmetrical, and I was actually loving the way it looked that way. But once I was happy with the placement, I hot glued everything down. I love the warm wood against a pretty green botanical background, and the layered paint sticks give it such a unique look. The next few DIYs are super quick and simple. I'll be using one of these large woven baskets from Dollar Tree, along with this pretty contact liner. It has a soft blue background with white leafy branches, and I thought it would look beautiful added to the bottom of the basket. To make the bottom nice and sturdy, I'll be sticking the liner onto one of Dollar Tree's chopping mats. And for my template, I'm using one of my pot lids that just happened to fit the basket perfectly. I love it when things work out like that. So I'm just tracing around the pot lid onto the chopping mat, and then lightly scoring along the line with my X-Acto knife. The mat was a little thick to cut all the way through in one pass, so scoring it first made it much easier to finish cutting with my scissors. Then I cut out a piece of the contact liner, making sure it was slightly larger than the mat. I peeled off the backing and placed the mat right on top, smoothing it down as I went. Once everything was nice and smooth, I trimmed away the excess with my X-Acto knife. Now I do have another idea for this round insert, so make sure you stay until the end to see what else I do with it. Then I just dropped it right in the bottom of the basket and it was a perfect fit. And since the insert isn't glued down, I can easily switch it out whenever I want. I have this large tray from Dollar Tree that I've used for many DIYs, and here we go, using it again. I thought this new peel and stick wallpaper with its pretty white and pink flowers against a black background would look so good against a white tray border. And it fits perfectly widthwise, so I only needed to trim just under an inch off the length. Once I did that, I just laid it inside the tray. You don't even have to stick it. You can if you want, but it did lay nicely flat. And that way you can easily take it out or switch it whenever you want a different look. For the next one, I'm using this black wire basket from Dollar Tree, and I wanted to use that same pretty blue contact liner And I had this leftover Dollar Tree wood plaque from another project, and this was almost a perfect size. The width fit perfectly, so I just trimmed the length of the wood to fit. So I placed a contact paper on top of the wood, smoothed it down, and trimmed off the excess. After that, I just dropped it into the bottom of the basket. Super quick and easy, and I love how that soft blue looks against the metal black. For the next DIY, I'm making a sweet little clipboard using one of these bamboo cutting boards from Dollar Tree. I'm also using this peel and stick wallpaper. This new design has become one of my favorite patterns. I peeled back just a small section of the wallpaper backing and placed a cutting board on top. Then I used my craft knife to trim around the edges. I love how the wallpaper looked with the bamboo, so I decided not to paint the sides and just leave it natural. When I was at Dollar Tree, I was looking for a strong clip to add to the top, and I found this pack of metal magnetic clips. The back looked fairly flat from the package, so I thought I could simply attach it with E6000. But it wasn't quite as flat as I had hoped when I opened it, and part of the edge stuck out, so I was a little worried it might eventually pop off. Then I noticed the bottom section inside the clip was completely flat, and it was a perfect spot to attach it. I added some E6000, clipped it right onto the top of the cutting board, and the clip held itself in place while the glue dried, so I didn't even need to clamp it. The magnet on the clip is really strong, but the board does make the whole thing quite a bit heavy, so if you want to use magnets to hang it, you'll need to add a couple more magnets towards the bottom. Just make sure they're about the same thickness as the clip. For one last detail, I added this butterfly sticker on the clip, and now I have this lovely little clipboard, and I'm definitely making more. I've already DIY'd this Dollar Tree book once before and thought it was time to change it up. I'll be pairing the soft neutral leaf pattern with the green floral peel and stick. I started by measuring the wallpaper for the front cover. I left about an inch of extra wallpaper along the top, bottom, and right side so that I could wrap it around the edges. On the left side near the spine, I didn't take it all the way to the edge because the green floral wallpaper will be covering that section. Then I cut another piece the same size for the back cover. To attach, I peeled back just a section of the backing and placed the wallpaper on top of the book, leaving a little overhang around the outer edges. Then I slowly removed the rest of the backing and smoothed everything down. To help the corners fold over nice and neatly, I trimmed the corners at an angle. Then I just folded all of the extra wallpaper over the edges. And look how nice and clean that looks. I love it. And I just repeated those same steps on the back, wrapping the wallpaper neatly around the edges so both sides have that same nice finished look. Also, if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss the next one. For the spine, I pinched the wallpaper along both sides so that I could find the center so it was even on each side. Then I peeled back a small section of the backing, lined it up along one side, and pulled it across the spine onto the other side. At the top and bottom, I cut two small slits in the center overhang, right where the spine meets the cover. I folded the two outer sections in and then trimmed the center piece a little narrower so I could fold and tuck it neatly over the top edge of the spine. And it gave everything a nice clean finish. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the smaller book, only this time I wanted more of that beautiful green floral pattern to show, and I'll use the neutral leaf pattern on the spine. I thought this would complement the other book nicely, especially since I'll be placing it on top of the other one. I decided to cover the spine first and then work on the front and back covers. You can really apply the wallpaper in whichever order you like. The steps are all the same, and either way it's gonna look great. You can also make the contrasting section on the spine as wide or narrow as you want, or even cover the entire book with just one design. Now, I told you earlier that I had another idea for that round basket insert, so I made a second one for this project. I just traced a circle into another Dollar Tree chopping mat, cut it out and covered it with that same blue and white contact paper. I thought it would make such a pretty background for this beaded wreath. I added hot glue and a few sections, placed the wreath right on top, and then added a little more glue to make sure everything was secure. And it actually held together pretty well. I wanted to keep the rest nice and simple, so I added a couple greenery along the bottom opposite each other, and I glued it in place. Then I added a flower right in the center. I added ribbon on the top for hanging, and this cute little wreath is all done. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below which one was your favorite. I always love hearing from you.